All right, let's get right into this. I have a highlighter and I have a pen. We're not going to be doing a closed read on this because it is so short, but I am going to review what author's perspective is. If you remember, we talked about narrator's perspective the last 2 weeks. Narrator being the person who tells the story. The author is the person who writes the words. So I want you guys to make sure that you understand the difference. So this is the person who writes the words. So the person may not necessarily be telling the story if they wrote the words, unless it is in first person point of view and they are telling, the narrator is the author, so to speak. So if the narrator is not necessarily the author, because the author tells the narrator what to say. So we're going to be talking about author's perspective quickly for the next couple of days as a review, because we haven't done it in a while. But then we're going to be going and be comparing and contrasting different authors' perspectives on articles of the same topic. So how are they similar? How are they different? And then what are some things that each of the authors share with their opinions? So your perspective is based on your opinions and experiences. Your perspective may be different from another person's perspective. An author's perspective is based on his or her opinions and experiences. Your perspective may be different from an author's perspective. Just because someone's opinion is different does not necessarily make them wrong, but we will be looking at ways that they support their opinion. That's what's important, is how they support their opinion. So I'm going to try to zoom in here just a little bit more so we can try to see this here. Okay. So the author's perspective can be for, which is our positive, against, which is a negative, or they could be neutral, meaning nothing really. They show both sides. Okay. So if we're looking that they're for a topic, then they're talking about how good something is, how all the different positive aspects of a topic. If they're against it, they're going to be talking about how bad it is, all the negative things about a topic. And the neutral, they show both. They don't really want to show you that they're on one specific side. So winter is a dreadful time of year. I'm going to be going through and highlighting words after I read this once. I'm going to go back and read it a second time, and I'm going to highlight words that are either positive or negative. Okay, now that's going to help me determine if it is a for or against our topic, which is winter. Winter is a dreadful time of year. Everything is dead and lifeless. The trees are bare and the grass is brown. It is bitterly cold outside. Sometimes the temperature drops well below zero, and it's uncomfortable to be outside for even a few minutes. Winter can be dangerous. People die every year on ice-covered highways. Others end up in emergency rooms due to frostbite. Winter is the worst season of all. When I read that, I don't think they like winter. How do I do that? Dreadful, dead, lifeless, bare, brown. Grass being brown is yucky. Bitterly cold, uncomfortable, dangerous, dying, emergency rooms, and worst. All of those things tell me that they do not like winter. The author does not like winter. They say it's the worst season of all. So our topics are all, our next two topics is about winter. So we're going to compare and contrast. I'm going to show you how we would do that quickly, but not focusing on it too much, since that's what we're going to be working on later on in the week. And I'm not going to use this highlighter again because it was a little too dark. I'm just going to underline instead. So winter is a wonderful time of year. The three best holidays, Christmas, New Year's Eve, and Valentine's Day, take place during the winter months. You can do things outside that you can't do any other time of the year. For example, you can sled, ski. Oh my goodness, so sorry. or even build a snowman. Winter is the only time of year when there is a real possibility that you will wake up in the morning and school will be canceled. Clearly, winter is the best season of the year. So I'm going to go through here and write anything positive or negative, or underline anything positive or negative. Wonderful. Best holidays. You can do things outside that you can't do any time of the year. Well, school being canceled is positive. Winter is the best season. You could also say that things that you could do that are fun could also be things that tell us why they like it. So the author loves winter and says it's the best season of the year. Oops, I'm going to rewrite that one. Okay. How do they differ? The first author does not like winter, and the second author likes winter. So when we're comparing and contrasting author's perspective, that's exactly what it would look like. Loves it. Okay. All right. My last example. If you want to experience an unforgettable vacation, okay, so our topic is vacations. You need to visit a beach. The purpose of going on a vacation is to forget about the stresses of everyday life and relax. And a beach vacation is the only one where you can lay out under the warm sun and truly relax and refresh yourself. There is nothing that can compare to walking along a beach at sunset or listening to the calming sounds of waves crashing into the shoreline in a rhythmic pattern. Beach vacations are simply the best. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to underline any words that are positive or negative. Unforgettable vacation. Relax. Relax, refresh yourself. That's all positive. Nothing can compare, shows that it's amazing. They're simply the best. So the author thinks beach vacations are the best vacation. See how I'm quoting it? They're simply the best. Okay. Now what happens if I have a mixture of positive and negative? Then look and see if they're showing both sides, and it's probably neutral. So that is author's perspective for right now. And then we'll be moving on to some models tomorrow.